Jai Anilo Premadano Karma Kacho
Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu Bhagavan Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Anand Guru Vaishnava Guru ki Jai. Ramacharya Sri Thakur ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ स्वामी राधा कुंती गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ पुरी की जय। गंगामयी की जय। जमुनामयी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंद all glories to the Assembly, all glories to the Assembly, all glories to the Assembly, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Tasya Pritena Manasa Tham Tatvaidavidas Tatha Ashyatho Antardadhe So Api Swapuram Pratyabhadyatha Asya Pritena Manasa Vaidvaitavidastata Ashyatom Hardate Sopi Svapuram Pratyabhadyata Asya Pratena Manasa Asya Pritena Manasa Hamdat Daividastata Ashyatom Hardate Sopi Svapuram Pratyabhadyata Asya Pritena Manasa Handai Vaidavidastata Ashyatom Hardate Sopi Svapuram Pratyabhadyata
Tasya pritena manasa Andatvaidavistata Ashyato antardade sopi
Sopi
Apuram Pratyapadyata
Sapuram Pratyapadyata
Tasya Pitena Manasa
Tasya Videna Manasa
Tam Dattvaina Vinastata
Tammadvaita Vinastata
Ashyatam Targane Sopi
Pasyatam Targane Sopi
Apuram Pratyapadyata
Swapuram Pratyapadyata
Tasya Pitena Manasa
Tasya Videna Manasa
Dattvaita Vinastata
Tammadvaita Vinastata
Ashyato Antargane Sopi
Pasyato Targane Sopi
Apuram Pratyapadyata
Swapuram Pratyapadyata. There it is.
Tasya Videna Manasa
Tasya Videna Manasa
Tammadvaita Vinastata
Tammadvaita Vinastata
Pasyatam Targane Sopi
Pasyato Targane Sopi
Swapuram Pratyapadyata
Swapuram Pratyapadyata
Tasya Pritena Manasa
Tasya Videna Manasa
Tam Dattvaita Vidastataha
Tammadvaita Vinastata
Asyato Antargane Sopi
Pasyato Targane Sopi
Swapuram Pratyapadyata
Swapuram Pratyapadyata Tasya with Dhruva Pritena being very pleased Manasa with such a mentality Tam that remembrance Tattva having given Aidavida Kuvera son of Aidavida Tanta thereafter Pashyata while Dhruva was looking on Antargade disappeared Saha he Dhruva Api also Swapuram to his city Pratyapadyata returned. The son of Aidavida, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased. And happily he gave Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. By his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Kuvera was known as the son of Aidavida, who was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj, because he did not ask him for anything materially enjoyable. Kuvera is one of the demigods, so one may put forward the argument, why did Dhruva Maharaj take a benediction from a demigod? The answer is that for a Vaishnava, there is no objection to taking a benediction from a demigod, if it is favorable for advancing Krishna consciousness. The gopis, for example, worshipped Katyayani, the demigoddess, but the only benediction they wanted from the goddess was to have Krishna as their husband. A Vaishnava is not interested in asking any benediction from the demigods, nor is he interested in asking any benediction from the Supreme Personality of God. It is said in the Bhagavatam that liberation can be offered by the Supreme Person, but even if a pure devotee is offered liberation by the Supreme Lord, he refuses to accept it. Dhruva Maharaj did not ask Kuvera for transference to the spiritual world, which is called liberation. He simply asked that wherever he would remain, whether in the spiritual or material world, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of God. A Vaishnava is always respectful to everyone. So when Kubera offered him a benediction, he did not refuse it. But he wanted something which would be favorable to his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnanam Timirandasya Jnananjalachalakaya Chakshuru Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamana Tadati Svapadantikam Pandelam Sri Guru Sri Juta Patakalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Islam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahadana Ramnatham Tam Sajivam Shadvaitam Savadutam Harijanasatam Krishna Chaitanya Sri Radha Krishna Padana Sahagana Bhakta Sri Shakantam Hey Krishna Karunasindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Purnisha Purnika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vamshakaram Padranjascha Kripat Sindhuya Evacha Patidhanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The son of Adavida, Lord Kubera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter, he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. We find here Kubera, who is called King of Kings. He is one of the greatest of the demigods. As we say in this world, money is power. One of the greatest anxieties about war is of the leaders is getting enough wealth to keep funding the war. We have enough wealth and through influence, brute force, display great prowess. Kubera is treasure of demigods, immense, incomprehensible wealth. In fact, it was he who was living in the golden city of Sri Lanka. And his brother, so much for brother and dog, his brother Radhanath was so envious that he conquered him and usurped him, chased him away. He took his beautiful golden airplane. So Kubera is very powerful. And here, it is described how he's very pleased and happy. The Dhruva Maharaj did not ask anything material. Sometimes in India, people are very much accustomed to worshipping demigods. Not only in their life, but their families, generation after generation after generation. There's ancient deity, sometimes hundreds of years old, by their grandmothers and great-grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers. Usually it's the mothers to do the puja. Fathers are not too busy trying to make money. And they say that now we've become devotee, but you know what to do? This deity has been in our home for so many generations. It's a demigoddess, a demigod. What do? We don't want to make any aparad to them. And it's very simple. When you worship Krishna, all the demigods and demigoddesses are most happy with you. That's actually the benediction they always wanted to give you, to surrender to Krishna. They're not really very happy. You may please them in the sense that you perform your prescribed duties, you've done what you're supposed to do for them, but because you have selfish motivations, you don't really please them. You're not really worshiping them with love. Business. Lord Shiva. He's Vaishnava, as great as Vaishnava. The only thing he really wants to give anyone is pure emotional service. We see in Vrindavan, Kameshwar Mahadev, Kamyamana, Yashodamai, Rishabhanu Maharaj, and Kirtana Mataji. They worshipped Kameshwar Mahadev to have the goddess of fortune as their daughter. Mahadev's blessing, Sri Radharani appeared as their daughter. And in Nandagaon, there's Nandeshwar Mahadev, Arjanya, Nanda Maharaj worshipped because they wanted a son for Nanda Maharaj, not an ordinary son, Krishna. This is proper worship of deity. The gopis, they perform 1 month of tapasya, doing puja for Katyayani, to have Krishna as husband. Katyayani is the consort of Shiva. But then we also say there was Bhuteshwar Mahadev in Mathura. Kamsa worshipped Shiva to kill Krishna. They worship Shiva for the power to kill Krishna. There you go. So we find in Ramayana, Valmiki, that there was actually sometimes Rakshasas upon us. It's a dynasty, it's a race. It's like sometimes Malechas become Brahmins and Vaishnavas. So there was a very, very nice king of Rakshasas. And he wanted his daughter to marry a Brahmin yogi. Because if he did, because that would just protect the future of the family and the dynasty. Because Brahmins have a lot of goodness, longevity, and special protection. So he married his daughter to a very great rishi. And they had several children. The first eldest child, when he came out of the womb, he had 10 heads, 20 angry eyes, and fire was flying out of his mouth. That was infant. They named him Dasamuka because he had 10 heads. And later on, because he just terrorized everybody he met, and wherever he went, people were weeping in agony. They named him Radhanath, one who makes people cry. the second brother, he just started, from his infancy, he was just devouring everything that came to his sight. Moving and unmoving, he just devoured things. And he started growing immense size, just day after day. He was named Kumbhakarna. And a girl was born. She was very, very different type of Mataji. Saparnika. Very powerful. When she was a young girl, she could play with dolls or anything. She would just grab tigers and stick them in her mouth and eat them. She was crawling around. So they decided to do tapasya for Lord Brahma. And severe tapasya. And Brahma is a great devotee. Such a great devotee. Satmavu is born of the navel of Lord Vishnu Padmanabha. But still, because he's a demigod, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, if you're a demigod, you basically have your duties. If someone performs the proper worship and puja, you have to give them what they want. You can't discriminate. It's like if someone comes into the store, wants to buy, you're obliged to sell it because they're giving you the money. That's the difference between Vishnu and the demigods. If you do the proper sacrifices, the demigods have to appear to you and give you what you want. But Vishnu, you do the proper sacrifice, he can take everything away. He's independent. He's Hari. Krishna. Sometimes in India, people are afraid to worship Krishna. Because they're afraid that he's Hari, he's going to take everything away from them. I'm not ready for that. In Bengal, I was told that people worship Durga all their lives, but at the time of death, everybody will chant Hare Krishna. Sometimes it's like that. So they worship Brahma. Brahma came. You think he wanted to give benedictions to these rascals? He had to do it. He gave benedictions to Hiranyakashipu. Vishnu had to do all kinds of unusual methods of appearing just to protect Brahma's benedictions. So Radhanath, he wanted incredible powers. He wanted anybody in battle, cut off any of his 20 arms, 20 legs, 10 heads, they would immediately grow right back without even causing him pain. He got that benediction. He wanted power to defeat Indra and the demigods. He got that benediction. Conquer all directions. Then Brahma, then Kumbhakarna approached Brahma. And demigods were really worried. They took Brahma off to the side and said, Brahma, there's one thing we gave him all those benedictions. He's going to terrorize us, but this Kumbhakarna, he's already so giant. He already devours everything inside. He's already practically destroying the entire universe, and he has no benedictions. If you give this person benedictions, the universe is finished. The whole dynasty of demigods is vanquished. So they made a plan. And they called for Saraswati, goddess of speech. It was a very, very intelligent plot that they had to make really just in the spur of the moment, instant decision. If you'd like to hear what it was, this was the plan. Brahma said to Kumbhakarna, what benediction would you like? Kumbhakarna opened his mouth and he was ready to ask, to conquer all directions, to be undefeatable in battle. But at that very moment, Goddess Saraswati jumped right on his tongue and moved his tongue to say, I want to go to sleep. And Brahma instantly said, benediction is granted, so be it. And then Kumbhakarna, he realized what he just said. He couldn't believe he said that. He was totally in anxiety. He couldn't ask for anything more. He already received the so be it. So what a nonsense I am. How did I do that? Brahma's up I could have asked anything and I was to go to sleep. Then he fell asleep. Very well. So in this way we find that so many sinful people approach demigods, and the demigods have to appear to them and they give them all material benedictions. When I was in India, I was just a young boy, and I was traveling around really searching for truth and for God. And I came down from the Himalayas, and I passed through Delhi. And I was sleeping in a park, under a tree. And near that park, there was a temple. It was a temple of Ganesh. And I went there to offer my respects. And I didn't know so much what is a demigod, what is God, until I met Srila Prabhupada. I liked everyone. Until I came to bring down this understanding of this. So I saw these people, they were worshiping Ganesh. There was a whole family. They appeared to have so much devotion. There was a priest doing pujas, and they were participating, and they were crying, and they were just doing everything so meticulously. The whole family was participating in it, and I was just really impressed. I was just watching them, trying to imbibe their spirit of spirituality. And it went on for about an hour or so. And when it ended, I just really wanted to know more about what they just did, because they impressed me so much. So I asked them, can you tell me about this worship that you just performed? And the father said, yes, I'm starting a new business, and I'm worshiping Ganesh so that the business will be profitable. Hare Krishna. And I realized I really don't have very good intelligence. I was completely devastated. I couldn't believe people would be worshiping like that for that purpose. Krishna explains in Gita, those who worship demigods for material benedictions, they are less intelligent. They have a mentality that is in one of passion or ignorance. Bhaktivedanta Vaishnavas, Krishna Goswami explains, the Vaishnavas must offer all respects to the demigods. We may condemn the mentality of asking for temporary, selfish, material benefits from the demigods, but we never condemn the demigods. They are the deputed agents of Krishna, serving him by performing the universal managerial functions of the universe. And many of them are Kama Misha Bhaktas. They're devotees with many material desires that they want to be fulfilled alongside with their service. And some of them are very great Vaishnavas. Vayu is a great Vaishnava. And Indra may do all kinds of unusual things from time to time. He may get caught up in the modes of passion sometimes, get eyes all over his body. But actually, it was Indra. In Bhagavatamrita, we find that Brahman, when he went into the Loka, and Vishnu, when he performs yajnas, Vishnu personally comes and talks to him. He gives him all kinds of benedictions. Very, very great personality, exalted personality. Vaishnavera Kriyanuja, Vijay Puja. You shouldn't judge Vaishnavas by just how things appear. And Lord Shiva, demigods approached him, and there was danger that poison was permeating the universe during the journey of the ocean. No. Save us, save us. Even Vishnu went with them. Vishnu wanted to glorify Lord Shiva. Similar to Krishna could have destroyed everyone in the battle of Kurukshetra. He showed in his universal form his capacity to do that. But he wanted to give Arjuna his devotee credit. So similarly, the whole universe was in danger. They approached Vishnu, but he wanted Shiva to get credit. The Lord loves to glorify his devotees. So Shankara, he drank the entire world. It was vast amounts of poison, but by his mystic power, he concentrated it. It's like when you have concentrated orange juice. That means you take a big, big volume of orange juice and you concentrate it. If you eat the concentrate, it's really horrible. It's so potent. You have to dilute it. Shiva took this vast amount of poison and concentrated it. And he didn't dilute it. He just drank that concentrated poison. Nectar and black. Kavakanta. Out of compassion. But yet we see this compassion, pure Vaishnava, Lord Shiva, the Gasura. He's cutting off his flesh and putting it in fire. Om Namah Shivaya. More flesh. Om Namah Shivaya. More flesh. He wanted Lord Shiva to come. He was going to force that Shiva to come no matter what. After cutting off most of his flesh, Shiva didn't come. So then he was about to cut off his head. So Shiva came and said, enough is enough. What do you want? Something like that. I want the benediction that whoever's head I touch will crack into 1,000 pieces. So be it. Now this is a Paramahamsa Mahabharata. Mahadev, Vaishnava, yeah, because he's in the role of a demigod, he has to do this. You think he was pleased with Vikrasura? So Vikrasura, just to show how much he loved his worshipable deity, this H.H.Tamal, he saw Parvati. It was very beautiful. And he was thinking, I want to enjoy Parvati. There's only one thing between me and Parvati, and that is my Ishtadev. A worshipable deity, therefore he must die. So he went to touch Shiva's head with his finger. He already got the benediction. Anyone. There was no qualification. It wasn't qualified that anyone except this person and that person. So Shiva, in order to protect his own benediction, he had to protect his life. He actually ran away. Vikrasura was chasing after him. Shiva was running away. Now this is a very different type of running away than Yashoda chasing after Krishna. One is out of pure motherly, ecstatic love, and one is out of envy and lust. Hare Krishna. So Shiva ran and ran. Vishnu saw what his devotee situation was. Kauteya pratijani me bhakta pranashiti. Krishna always protects his devotee. So he appeared. As a little boy, little Brahmin boy. And he approached the Goswami and said, "What are you doing?" "I'm going to touch Shiva's head, crack his skull into 1,000 pieces, and then enjoy Parvati." He said, "Well, you know, Shiva's benedictions, I haven't been observing. They don't always work. Better be careful, everyone's watching you. And you're going to touch his head and nothing's going to happen, and everyone's going to laugh at you. That's worse than death. Shame. So what should I do?" He said, "You better test that benediction before you touch his head. Just touch your own head and see if it works." Vishnu spoke so convincingly and just overcame him with his illusory energy that Prakasura thought, that's good advice. His head in 1,000 pieces and died. What do you know? Actually, this is the first story I ever wrote. This is the first chapter I ever read in Prabhupada's books. Because I came down from the Himalayas. I was a yogi with matted hair and yogi clothes, sadhu clothes, and this devotee, Krishna Krishna Prabhupada. He was at a book table. I just walked in. I was walking down the street. I see Hare Krishna sign. I didn't know what is Hare Krishna. And I was interested in everything spiritual. So I came in this gigantic bundle tent, Bombay, across Meda, 1971, March. And there was a book table right near the entrance. So I was kind of looking, and this devotee, he thought I was some Indian Shivite. He didn't recognize that I was an American. So he ignored me. So I asked him, "Could I look at this book? Could I look at one of your books?" He said, "Oh, you speak English?" I said, "Yes, I'm from America." He said, "You're from America? Are you a Shivite?" And I said, "Well, I live in Himalayas, and most of the people I was living with were Shivites." He said, "Oh, here is a story you should read." So he gave me that story. So I read this, Shiva running away from Bakasura and Vishnu, and after I finished the chapter, he was right there watching me. He said, "You see, even Shiva surrenders to Vishnu. So you should surrender to Krishna. Give up everything else." And I was thinking, nice person. Maybe he's a fanatic. I don't understand. So in this way, the demigods are all devotees. Bhagavatam explains, if you water the root of a tree, every part of the tree is nourished, satisfied. Similarly, if you worship Krishna, all the demigods are satisfied. Ultimately, that's what they want to give. Another example is Keshav Kashmir, the Dipijay Pandit. He worshipped Saraswati Devi and asked for the benediction that he would be the most famous scholar that ever lived. That no one could defeat him. That every time he opened his mouth, Saraswati would personally be on his tongue to speak through it. Goddess Saraswati is an expansion of Lakshmi Devi. Yes, she's not an ordinary person. No one can defeat Saraswati Devi. She's the very goddess of learning and arts. So he was speaking so incredibly, every scripture, every sloka, every philosophical conception is just right on his tongue at a moment's notice. So he didn't leave Vijay. He conquered every country. Then he came to Navadvip. When he came to Navadvip, Navadvip was the high seat of learning for all of India. They had a good reputation. And although all the pundits were always debating with each other, when someone came to attack Navadvip, they were all united to defend the reputation of their city. And they were scared because they knew nobody could stand before him. So Nimai Pandit, he was just a young lad, and he was teaching grammar, the basics, most basic type of education, Sanskrit grammar. And he would sit on the bank of Ganga, and his students would be around. And Radhanath Thakur tries to explain what a beautiful scene that was. Lord Chaitanya, Nimai Pandit, sitting with the students. He would sit in the middle, and all the students would be in a circle around. He said, it appears like the beautiful full moon surrounded by the luminous stars. No, I must reject that idea, because the moon had top marks on it. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's beautiful countenance is spotless. And also the moon waxes and wanes. And Lord Chaitanya's beauty is eternally increasing. So perhaps this example, he was like Brihaspati surrounded by the demigods. But that isn't a good example either, because Brihaspati, he's partisan. He's favorable toward the demigods, but he's unfavorable toward the demons. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's equal to everyone as you approach him, your words are recorded, whoever you may be. So many examples he gave. But no example of this world could fit properly. Perhaps he's like Cupid, the god of love, the god of beauty, surrounded by his associates. No, I can't accept this. Because when Cupid's beauty enters into your heart, he just agitates you. But when Lord Chaitanya's, Nimai Pandit's beauty enters into your heart, he brings complete peace, liberation from all agitation and ecstasy. Only comparison I can think of is Krishna on the bank of the Jamuna, surrounded by his coward boyfriends, taking prasad. There you go. So while he was giving his lessons in this mood, one day, the student said, did Vijay Pandit just came into Navadvip? How he came in? This person is so famous. He's so wealthy because wherever he goes, he just conquers through knowledge. He came in a procession with elephants, decorated, ornamented elephants, and chariots with decorated horses, and thousands of disciples and Brahmins constantly chanting mantras. And all the scholars of Navadvip are shaking in fear, because they're discussing with each other, what are we going to do? If Saraswati appears on his tongue every time he opens his mouth, how can any of us stand before him? We're finished. What will we do? They had no solution. Lord Chaitanya smiled. He said, you will see, within a few days, all of his pride will be smashed into powder. He said that a person actually has great virtues. A great man, truly great, great person is like, who is endowed with good qualities, is like a tree with good fruits. A tree with good fruits never stands up straight. Due to those fruits, that tree always bows its head very, very low to the ground. Similarly, a person who has actual good qualities always bows his head in humility. If one has pride and keeps his head up, that means he has no good fruits. You will see what happens to this Dignity. Children were very much interested in what he was saying. That night, Digvijay Pandit happened to be taking a walk along the beautiful, beautiful banks of the Ganga. And he came upon Nimai Pandit with his students. It was just evening, just around the sunset time. When he saw Nimai Pandit's beauty, he was charmed, he was attracted. He just wanted to look at him. He asked one of the students, "Who is that?" He said, "That is the great Nimai Pandit, my teacher." So Nimai Pandit happened to see him. And Nimai was so respectful, such etiquette. This is a very senior man. So with folded palms, he welcomed him. He offered him obeisances. He said, "Oh, you must be the Digvijay Pandit, the famous Digvijay Pandit." He gave him honors. He gave him a very gracious, hospitable welcome. He praised him. And he said, "We have heard that you can compose poetry in such a wonderful, wonderful way like no one else in this world. Please compose a beautiful poem in glorification of Ganga Devi." Digvijay Pandit, within practically instantly, he just composed poetry and began to speak. He was speaking like the wind. So beautiful. All meters, all alankaras or literal ornamentations were so perfect and precise. He chanted over 100 verses that he just composed on the spot, original. The students of Nimai Pandit were struck with wonder. They never heard anyone compose poetry of that quality on the spot. And Nimai said, "This is very, very good what you have just done. Now please explain the good qualities of your poems and also explain the mistakes that you made." Digvijay Pandit said, "I have never made a mistake." So Nimai, he just immediately recited a particular sloka. He said, "How did you remember that sloka?" I chanted all those slokas, 100 slokas, like the raging wind. How did you remember? He said, "Just as you have been given the gift of composing poetry, I have been given the gift of being Shrutikar. I remember anything I hear." And then he pointed out various defects. Nimai pointed out defects in his poem. And he tried to defend them, and Nimai completely devastated all of his resistance. He defeated him. Then Nimai asked him another question, and after being defeated, he couldn't speak a word. He was unable to move his tongue. His mind became completely blank. He was dumbfounded. This never happened to him before. And all the boys started laughing at him. Everybody defeated him. And Levi stopped the boys. Very serious. Don't laugh. He learned to protect his dignity. So in this completely blank, humiliated state, Levi said, actually, your poetry was so nice and you compose so much. You must be very tired. Go home, take rest, and tomorrow I will present my questions to you. Go home, he said, go home and study your books. And tomorrow I will present my questions. So Keshav Kashmir was just blank. He went home. He worshipped Saraswati Devi and did I make some aparati? You gave me this benediction. You would always be with me, and you abandoned me. I don't understand how. And I've defeated the greatest scholars in the highest subjects. Today I was defeated by a child who's just a teacher of basic grammar. How is this possible, Saraswati Devi? He was weeping. His heart was broken. He didn't know what to do. And he went to sleep. And Saraswati Devi appeared to him in sleep. And told him the person who approached him is not just an ordinary scholar. He is the Supreme Personality of God. Whatever power I have received from him. Whatever power you have is by his mercy ultimately. She told him that when you ask me for a benediction, because you pleased me, the real benediction that I gave you was not that I made you the world's greatest debater. The real benediction that I gave you was I brought you to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of God to see his beautiful darshan. Now we should go to him with all humility and surrender your life. Real wealth, real fortune is not scholarship. It's devotional service to the Lord. Go to him. So the next morning, first thing in the morning, he went right to Nimai Pandit's house. Nimai Pandit came to his door, and he just started offering his prostrated obeisances to Vijay Pandit. Nimai said, what are you doing? Why are you doing like this? And he said, Saraswati Devi has revealed to me who you are, the Supreme Lord. And I can understand you must be the Supreme Lord. Because my pride was so immense that anyone who could have defeated me, I would have died of humiliation. But you defeated me and protected my honor, protected my dignity. That's impossible for anyone to do except the Supreme Personality of God. And that is confirmed by the Goddess Saraswati. I surrender to you. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Keshav Kashmir that what you have understood is the truth. The real fruit of good fortune, the real goal of life, is not material wealth or learning, but it's humility and devotion. Always chant the holy names. Always immerse yourself in the memory of Krishna. Giving your loving service to Krishna. So Keshav Kashmir became so enlightened, so purified. He experienced what is bhakti. He left Navadvip, not telling any of his thousands and thousands of followers. He left behind all his wealth, all of his fame and prestige, all of his followers, he just went alone secretly with bare feet. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. That was the real benediction of Saraswati. So if we really want to please the demigods, we will ask them, please give me pure unalloyed devotion to Krishna. But if you worship Krishna, all the demigods are included. Therefore, there's really no need to worship the demigods. So here we find in this beautiful chapter, Dhruva Maharaj was offered any type of benediction, and he only wanted two things: unflinching faith in Krishna, and to always remember and never forget the Supreme Personality of God in all circumstances of life. Prabhupada explains that actually devotees don't like to ask for benedictions from the demigods or even by the Lord himself. This was manifested in the Satrahani Lila Mahaprakash of Mahaprabhu in the house of Srivas Thakur. Lord Chaitanya appeared in the room of a devotee to teach by his example how to be devotion. And when anyone was addressing as Lord Krishna, Narayana, he would hold his ears with his hands and call out, Vishnu, Vishnu, save me. The Jivatma can never become Narayana. Never speak these things. But on one occasion, particularly, he wanted to satisfy the desires of all his devotees. In the house of Srivas Pandit, he sat on the throne of Vishnu and told his devotees to sing the kirtan for Abhishekam. And they knew exactly what he was saying. They were ecstatic. This was the moment they all waited for. They could freely worship Lord Chaitanya. They performed Abhishekam for him. They offered him gigantic quantities of bhoga, and he just ate it all. Thousands of bananas and thousands of pots of gum of water and sweets and sandesh and rasgullas, rice. They were just bringing it, and he was just eating it. I mean, well, instantly. Kept asking for more and more and more. And he was fulfilling all their desires. And they anointed him with oils, chandan, puchas, garlands, beautiful silken garments, ornaments, offered artis, pujas. It was a beautiful experience for all the devotees. Then Lord Chaitanya was calling each devotee up one by one and manifesting exactly the form that they worshipped, and then offering them benedictions. And all that each and every devotee refused to ask a benediction from the Lord. The Lord had to continuously order them to ask for a benediction. This is a Vaishnava, Supreme Personality of God. Any benediction, anything I will give you, ask. They would say, no, I don't want anything. How many of you would do that? If you were offered any benediction in all the material and spiritual worlds, would you say, no, I don't want anything? The Lord's were saying, this is a Vaishnava. Murari Gupta. Murari, come! Murari Gupta came. Well, Murari Gupta was a devotee of Sri Ramchandra. All of a sudden, Lord Chaitanya turned into Lord Rama. He saw there was Sri Ram, whose complexion was like the durba grass. He was holding a beautiful golden bowl in his hand. And on one side of him was Lakshmi, the other side was Sita. And then he looked down and he noticed that he had a tail. And then the Lord said, Hanuman, Hanuman, you are Hanuman. You do not remember, but now I am giving you the intelligence to remember these things. He said, oh monkey, Ravana has stolen Sita. Do you remember? He said, I am your Lord Ram. When Ravana stole Sita, he burned the entire city of Lanka to ashes with fire. Here was Lakshman worshipping. When Lakshman was wounded, he lifted the Gandhamadana mountain and carried it to save his life. And here was Sita. Do you remember? When you saw Sita in the Ashok Grove, being harassed by Ravana and his Rakshasas, a shoreless ocean of tears you shed out of love for her. Bow to her feet. Radha Gupta could do nothing but fall unconscious in ecstasy. The Lord woke him up. He told him, ask for a benediction. I will award you any benediction you desire. Ask. Radha said, I'm happy. I'm seeing. There's nothing else to ask for. I don't want anything, my Lord. Ask! Said, my Lord, I'm satisfied. Ask for benediction. I want you to ask for benediction. So he only asked for a benediction just to please the Lord. So selfless. He said, you must give me a benediction. He said, let me always remember. Let me never forget. Let me always live in a society of your devotees. Those devotees who always consider that you are their master and they are your servants. Let me always be in this mood that you are my master and I am your servant. That's the only benediction you want. To always be in association with devotees, to serve the devotees. Servant, the servant, the servant. Then he called for Haridas Thakur. He said, Haridas. And then he manifested his opulences to Haridas as Krishna. Haridas saw him and fell unconscious. The Lord woke him up by touching him. He said, Haridas, do you remember? Do you remember when you were beaten in 22 marketplaces in Fuliagram? Those demonic executions. I descended from Vaikuntha with my Sudarshan chakra to sever their heads. But you were praying from the core of your heart, my Lord, please forgive them. The power of your forgiveness was so great that the chakra would not move from my hand. So I had to protect you. You would let me harm them. So I personally laid my body on top of yours. And I received those brutal beatings. Then you personally showed Haridas Thakur and all the devotees, all those brutal beating marks were on Lord Chaitanya's beautiful golden foot. Haridas fell unconscious in ecstasy. Then the Lord asked him, ask for a benediction. He does. I'm satisfied. Just serving your devotees. I have no desire for benediction. Ask. So he asked. He said, I am the most wicked, the most fallen, untouchable person. Anyone who sees me becomes contaminated. I am so lamentable. And still, due to this disease of Maya, I'm still so much attached to the desire to be seen as an important person. If you want to give me a benediction, give me this benediction. Let me, every birth I take in this world, grant me the opportunity to get the remnants from the plate of the food remnants from the plates of your devotees. That's the only benediction I desire. Let me be born as a dog near the house of your devotees. So when the devotee finishes his prasad and throws it, I can eat it. That's the only benediction I desire. Because with the remnants of the Vaishnavas, I will always remember Krishna and chant his names. This great devotee Tukaram, he asked for a similar benediction in one of his songs. He prays, let me be an insect in the house of your devotee, so that when he takes his bath, I can swim and drink in the water that has washed his feet. That's the only thing I desire. His advice. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu granted his benediction. He said, I grant you the benediction, Haridas Thakur, that anyone who remembers you will become a great Vaishnava. That you will constantly be chanting the holy names. You will always be my intimate associate. And you know the story of Mukunda Dat. Mukunda Dat, Lord Chaitanya wasn't calling him at all. He was feeling very much dismayed. So Srivas Thakur saw that this devotee was very much unhappy. So he said to Lord Chaitanya, you're calling everybody, giving all benedictions, and fulfilling everyone's desires. But Mukunda Dat, you're completely ignoring him. Please, he wants to see you. And Lord Chaitanya said, don't even mention that rascal's name to me. He said he is the type of person that worships Brahman by touching his feet, then beats him in the head with a stick. What do you call it? Srivas said, what are you saying, my Lord? This is Mukunda Dat. The Lord said, he's associating with devotees, he's chanting and dancing and discussing Krishna, but then when he goes to the Mayavadis, he discusses things with them. Therefore, I never want to see him again. Srivas Pandit was weeping, he was crying. All the devotees were crying. Because actually, the nature of the Vaishnava is they're more concerned with other people getting the mercy of the Lord than themselves. All these devotees received the most blessed darshan of their heart's desires. If they were just ordinary type of people, they were thinking, well, I got what I got, who cares about Mukunda? But they were weeping in agony because Mukunda Dat was being neglected by the Lord. They loved him dearly. This is what Vaishnavas are all about. They're so eager to help each other, to find happiness in Krishna consciousness. Their lives are centered around helping each other to receive the mercy of the Lord. And their greatest delight in life is to see another Vaishnava being empowered, being blessed. Although all these devotees just got all their heart's desires fulfilled. They were so much devastated because Mukunda Dutt was feeling such sadness. So Mukunda was weeping, he was crying, he was standing behind like a pillar. And he cried out to Srivas, will I ever see the Lord? And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, he will never see me again. When he wrote, Mukunda was crying. Will I ever see the Lord? And Srivas said, my Lord, you'll never see him again? And the Lord said in great anger, he said, he will only see me after 10 million births. Mukunda Dutt became ecstatic. He was splashed with ecstasy. He was dancing, saying, I will see, only 10 million births, I will see. And when Lord Chaitanya saw what kind of faith he had, he understood the value of the darshan of the Lord. Some of us were thinking, I've been a devotee for 20 years. I've been a devotee for 5 years. Why am I not seeing Krishna? Why am I not in ecstasy? Goswami said surrender means enthusiasm and patience. Very well. Mukunda Dutt really exhibited patience. He was thinking, I'm guaranteed I'm going to see the Lord. I only have to just go on with my devotional service for the next 10 million births. He was thinking, how fortunate I am. I don't deserve this incredible causeless mercy. He was dancing in ecstasy. 10 million births, I will see the Lord. And Lord Chaitanya was so pleased to see his faith that he said, Mukunda, come now. I want to show myself to you now. Come. But Mukunda was so much in ecstasy, waiting for 10 million births, he didn't even hear the Lord. He was so busy dancing. I will see. The Lord said, bring him here. The devotees were gathered around Mukunda Dutt saying, the Lord wants to see you now. And he was just entranced. I will see 10 million births, I will see. Finally, they had to actually pick him up and just carry him and put him right in front of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya revealed his opulences to him. The Lord wanted to give him all benedictions. He considered himself so unqualified. Praying to the Lord, I have no devotion. Because I have no devotion, my life is as worthless as a pile of ashes. But still, by your causeless mercy, you're allowing me to see you. And not only do I see you, but I'm feeling joy seeing you. If one doesn't have devotion, one cannot have joy even if they see you. Then how is it? I have no devotion, but I'm feeling joy when I see you. What causeless mercy you have? Hiranyaksha, he saw Lord Varaha. But did he feel joy? He was miserable. He wanted to kill the Lord, and the Lord killed him. Then his brother, Hiranyakashipu, face to face with his eyes, he was seeing Narasimha Bhagavan. Was he feeling joy? No, he was feeling anxiety. He wanted to destroy you, and you destroyed him. And Kamsa, Kamsa was seeing you face to face, but there was no happiness in his heart. Kubja saw you, and she felt great bliss because she had devotion. And that garland maker, Sudama, in Mathura, when he saw you, he was feeling ecstasy because he had devotion. But when Kamsa saw you, he was feeling misery. Therefore, one can only feel joy upon seeing you if one has true devotion. But my Lord, although I have no devotion whatsoever, still you're giving me joy constantly. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, what you are saying is true, Mukunda doctrine. Unless one has devotion, one cannot find any real joy in seeing me. He gave an example. He said in Mathura there was that washerman. He said, do you know the background of that washerman? That washerman, thousands of births he worshipped me in order to see me. And the fruit of all of that austerities, so many hundreds of births of austerities, the fruit of those austerities with his desire to see me is I came right into his shop. He saw me face to face. And I said, give me some clothes, give me those clothes there. And he said, those are Kamsa's clothes. How dare you ask for Kamsa's clothes, you impudent fool. You will be punished for this offense. He said, you know what I did to him? I cut off his head with my hand. Krishna is the original martial artist. His hand sliced off his head. He said, even though he saw me with his eyes, because he did not have devotion, because of his association with Kamsa, he became envious. But Mukunda, I give you this benediction. I give you the benediction that in every birth you will always be with. Every time I incarnate, you will come and be my intimate favorite singer. And whenever you chant the holy names, I give you this benediction that all the devotees' hearts will melt in ecstasy. And that was his life and soul, just trying to please the devotees. There was always a cheering for you all. And Radhanath Thakur gives all those who hear this story with sincerity a benediction. That anyone who hears this story with sincere devotion will very soon see Lord Chaitanya and his associates face to face. So this is an example of the kinds of benedictions that devotees are asking. Dhruva Maharaj, he exhibited this quality. Real joy, spiritual joy, does not come through acquisition. It comes through service. Selfless service. Uddhanam apisidhanam narayana parayana sudurlabham shantatma koti shrutinaha. Even many people who have achieved mukti, or many people who have achieved all the mystic cities, they find no real peace. Because it's an artificial condition. The nature of the soul is to love and to serve. The only really happy person is a pure devotee. There's no other happiness. The devotees don't care for even liberation. The ultimate supreme of all devotees are the gopis of Vrindavan. You know that famous story when Krishna had a headache and he sent his devotee to go to the great sages, rishis, scholars of the Vedanta. Krishna has a headache. Oh, what can we do to help him? He wants the dust of your feet as medication to apply to his head. And all the great yogis and rishis, Vedantas, they said, the dust of our feet and God's head. will go to hell. It's impossible. You can't do it. So Krishna sent, was it Narada? Sent Narada to Asco, please. They have very good dust. So he went to Vrindavan and said, Krishna has headache. He wants to apply the dust of your feet on his head. Immediately they started collecting dust, scraping it off their feet and putting it in little containers. Bring it immediately. And Narada said, what are you doing? Do you not know what will happen if you put the dust of your feet on Krishna's head? They said, of course we know, we'll go to hell. Why are you doing it? Gopis, if we have to go to hell and suffer for the rest of eternity, if in doing so we can give Krishna even one moment of relief from his headache, that is what we want. That is our long cherished desire. That is Bhakti. Unless we're willing to go to hell for Krishna, we can't go back to God. That is pure unconditional devotional service. And that is what Srimad Bhagavatam is teaching us in these beautiful stories. That was Dhruva Maharaj. Is there any questions? Yes, Prabhu. Gosai, Prabhu.
What you would advise, in your opinion, about those deities, say, from the ancestors they have, demigod, what they should do?
It depends on the time, place, and circumstance. But what we usually tell, because they have family members and those deities have been there for so many generations, that install the morning time for Radha Krishna on an altar. And you can have another small altar with them, and you can give them Radha Krishna's prasad. Gaurita's prasad, and honor them in their true glory as great servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Honor them and offer them all respects as great servants. Don't worship them separately from the Lord, and don't ask for material benedictions, but you can ask them to help you in attaining pure devotional service. You can pray to them. Is that correct? Very well.
I asked Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur's youngest son, Srila Krishna Bhaktivedanta Thakur's father, grandfather had many Shivalingas, and therefore you must have seen all those Shivalingas. Srila Krishna Thakur said that these deities, if they want, they can help you to get love of God if you are sincere. And that's the mood will keep them in our home.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Thank you very much. I want to extend my greatest gratitude to all of you during my stay here in Radhakala Chanti's abode. Amongst all of you who've shown such kindness, and patience, and tolerance. I'm very grateful, very happy to have fortunate spending this time with all of you. Forgive my shortcomings and offenses. please. And the most important experience that I had here was to see how Tamal Krishna Goswami Prabhupada created so many Jew-like Vaishnavas and offered them on the necklace of Sri Prabhupada. And how all of you have given me the opportunity to make some effort, however futile it may be, giving me the chance to make some effort to be a servant of the servant of the servant. Shri Gurudev Tamal Krishna Goswami. For that I'm always indebted. Thank you very much. Srila Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Radhanath Maharaj ki jai.